Well, this is my 46 that I had some fun with a few years ago. Got soaking wet because my daughter wanted to shoot some baskets, and I decided I'd pull it outside for a few minutes while we did that, and I didn't know it was going to be a monsoon. So anyways, we're going to let it dry off here. I'll shut it off in a second. Then we'll talk a little bit about this thing here that we're working on. All right, here's where it stands right at the moment. You can see we got the Master up above the S10 chassis. I got my things rearranged here, and I did some measuring. I did some eyeballing and all sorts of different things like that. But I got my measurements here, which I broke down into several different categories. First of all, if I come up here to the front hub, if I line up the Master and the S10 right here, and I line the center of that hub up for the wheelbase, we come back towards the back of the vehicle here, what we'll find is that the wheelbase for the S10 is 4 inches shorter than the Master. Not a big deal. I think that can easily be made up. And the way I'm going to do that, as I said before, is where they did the C-notch here previously. I'm just going to cut this horizontal piece out, and we're going to add 4 inches on one end, and then I'll weld it in. They don't have any fish plates or anything on here, so I'm going to do that as well. So when I add my 4 inches here, pushes the axle back so that I can get my 4 inches difference between the S10 and the Master. After that, of course, we're going to have to take the drive shaft out. I'm going to have to buy a longer one and cut it down to the appropriate size, or go to a drive shaft shop and have them make that for me. A couple other things when I was looking at this. Another concern of mine is going to be when I measured from where the front hub is here to where the fender ends, because on the Master, the wheel was very far forward in, the axle was further up front than the S10. But from the front hub to the fender and the radiator on the Master was 19.5 inches. On the S10, it was 22 inches. So what that's going to require doing, we're going to cut these off here. We're going to replace the radiator. I already have that in a box. It's a tall, skinny one that matches the original for the Master. We're going to have to take this mechanical clutch fan off of here, and that's going to be gone completely. Then I can put the new fan closer to the engine, and probably an electric fan in front of that. Anti-lock brakes are going to have to go. I'm going to have to cut the dash. You can see my white line here. I'm going to have to cut that in, and then I get rid of this crud over here. Brake booster should be able to stay. I dropped a center line from the Master straight down, and it's a lot narrower, right, from here to here than it is on the S10 at the dash. So that's going to get cut, and then it'll be made more narrow so that I can jam it into there. Also, another thing that I found is when I lowered this, the first time that I tried doing that, I got caught on the steering column. So this support here seems pretty integral and has the brake pedal connected to the booster through that. So I want to keep all of this, if I can, that structure, so I don't have to mess around with taking the booster off and all that kind of work. So when I line that up, the steering wheel and steering column right here, if we go straight up in there, actually matches. You see how I had to cut that out the last video just so I could get the steering column in and out, but it fit pretty well. The other thing I'm going to have to do is our filler neck is going to have to be angled that way so it goes out the back and not out the passenger door. And then when I was looking at this does have a reverse forelink, and the back of the S10 frame lines up pretty much right with this. So what I think I'm going to have to do is this back nastiness, I'm going to cut that out, or at least cut a hole for that down there. So that's where the chassis swap sits at the moment. I did have it all the way down on top of it yesterday, which was interesting to watch it come down. I'm going to have to, obviously these wheels aren't staying, so we're going to have to get different wheels with offset so they come out further from the hub, because the S10 is actually more narrow than this. So we're going to get wheels with different offset so that fits, and I don't have to change anything else. I'm not going to tub the inside of the Master. I don't think. I'm just going to push those wheels out. So right as it stands, it seems to fit pretty darn well for my, redneck math that I'm doing. So that's where we are right at the moment. And I'm not going to have any time at all this week. I'm going to do a little breakdown in the math so you can kind of get an idea of the time frame that I'm looking at. But this is just kind of a introduction to how far I got with removing the chassis from the Master and how close we are to getting it dropped on there. I realized that the floor pan of the S10 I'm going to also have to take out. I need to get rid of all this. The frame is about, 5 inches further in there than the floor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, I wanted to save the floor. It's nice. It's got the seat mount and everything, but I'm just going to cut it all out so that I can fabricate my own floor, so that I can also channel the body so it sits even lower. I took a picture of it when I had the chassis out of here and the Master on the floor. I'll stick that in the video here shortly. But I think it's going to look pretty wicked with the Master on the ground with the fenders on and the running boards that we're going to have to fabricate, of course. So I'll just bring it in here as well so we can look at the inside of the rockers and things that I cut out. There's a lot of the fiberglass there. I think I'm going to take all of that out of there, all that crustiness, and I will weld some square tube in here so we can get rid of all of this crustiness. Then we'll have something to mount our floor to. We can channel the floor so that, or channel the body so that the floor can sit lower and we really put this thing on the ground. So let me do some quick math for you here so you can understand my time frame for this build. So here's some math. We got Ratstock 2024. That's in September. All right. So we're starting April now. So we got April, May, June, July, August. I'm saying I got until August because I want a little bit of room just in case I need extra time. All right, so we got 5 months, right? About four weeks a month. All right, so we have 20 weeks to build this. Except the problem is I'm getting maybe 3 hours a week to work on this. If I'm lucky, I get 4 because it's nights and it's things like that, right? So we got 20 weeks and we got 3 hours a week, all right? So that means I have to build this thing in 60 hours. Everything else that I have left to do on this in 60 hours, well, we'll say, let's make that 4. All right, I got 80 hours. So I've got 2 work weeks to do this. Now, it's not going to be actual work days or work weeks. It's going to be the time that I have. So, I don't know. Think we can do it in 60 hours? That's where it stands right now. I mean, it's going to be an adventure. I just have so many tournaments for the kids and all the rest of life happening and work and all that kind of thing. So, I don't know. We'll find out. But for anybody else who's building on YouTube and you're going to Ratstock 2024, I sure as hell hope to see you there. Wish me luck. Well, you know what? When I was working on the chop and I was welding in the roof, I had a pretty good feeling about the quality of the metal in this car. And then, of course, we decided we were gonna try and drop the body on this chassis. Then I think I really kind of, opened up a can of worms here. So I'm kind of concerned about everything on the inside here. I mean, structural integrity. Well, I know that we cut the rest of the body off, but this stuff is just no good. Basically, I'm going to probably need to weld in a whole plate for the sill, or rebuild the entire sill there all the way from the front here by where the kick panel would be, and take it all the way back along there so I have something that I can securely weld my floor to. If we come back here, again, stuff that you don't see when you don't have, you know, that's, you know, inspires all sorts of confidence. Same thing over here. And all the way along this one. So what we are going to do is we are going to rebuild the sills of this so that I can, in fact, weld a floor in. And in the back here, I'm not so worried about this. If I've got the front of the vehicle supported and the frame is going to be under the trunk, yes, that's actually metal. But unfortunately, places like this where the rear of the fender mounts, got my little beer opener magnet here. So it'll stick to places like that, but nothing. Come under here. Yep, see-through. You can see lots of metal patched in there. More fiberglass there. So, work in progress. Here's what we're gonna do. We are gonna take some time. We are gonna cut all of this out, which was not in the plan for what I wanted to do. But I think for safety, structural integrity, you know, those minor things, to drive this on the road comfortably and not worry, you know, every single turn about my life being in my own hands and everything totally collapsing around me. I'm going to cut all of this out, add more work to my plate, and, you know, well, you know, build a car. So that'll be fun. Let's get after it. All right, well, after 15 minutes of doing some cutting here, what I have realized is, yes, there's a lot of bad cancer happening here. So this side, this is the passenger side. It actually, I mean, there's some metal in here. Doesn't look good, but there's metal. Yeah, there's some glass and there's some epoxy, and I don't even know what some of the stuff is in there. But on the driver's side here, I mean, this is metastatic. Gonzo, nothing left to work with over here. This is nothing. So, all right, after cutting out, you know, this garbage, there is going to be, well, basically everything's getting cut out. Here's what I'm making my mind up, executive decision right now. What is going to happen? I'm going to absolutely cut everything out from there all the way to there. That's all going. I'm going to put a rectangular tube in there, and you know, this is metal where we've got some frame here. My A-pillar, I've got some metal there. What I'm going to do is maybe even this body mount here. We're going to run something all the way back, both sides. Sorry, I hope I'm not making you dizzy here, but we're going to actually use where there's metal. This is going to be entirely cut out from here to there, and I'm going to have to buy some metal and just build that. So unfortunately, I think this video here for this week is mostly just the destructive processes and kind of planning ahead. But I think, you know, overall, I'm glad that this happened. I'm glad that I cut the floor out, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have realized exactly how bad this all was. And well, then, you know, driving down the road and half the car falls off. So we will be doing an awful lot of fabricating in the near future. This week isn't going to work out for me. I'm leaving tonight for a volleyball tournament with my older daughter. So this will have to wait for next week. So I hope you come back. I'm sorry that there really wasn't a lot of work in fabrication, but this is, I guess, part of building an old car like this. You find out all the crap that has gone on years past, and you don't really have a lot to work with. So we will fix it. We will make it better, and it's going to be kick-ass when we're done. But for right now, man, we're kind of in a hole. So I'm going to leave you there, and I will catch you next week when we're getting after some more of the 1937 Chevy Rat Rod Deluxe. Hey, bonus feature, this thing is entirely metal. At least I got that going for me.